I have its time, so. And with having a quorum with Mr. Cumberland or Commissioner Cumberland online.
For this part
For
of the
this
meeting,
part
we can go
of the
ahead.
meeting.
So, okay, I'm going to call the meeting to order. And the chair requests staff confirmation that Kansas Open Meeting Act required notice has been properly provided.
Confirmed.
Thank you. And roll call?
Chair Oakes,
Yes?
Commissioner Smith,
Yes.
Commissioner Daly,
Yes.
Commissioner Cumberland,
Yes.
Commissioner Eklund, Commissioner Rickman,
Yes.
and Commissioner Finger.
Perfect. So now we have a quorum for both.
Very good.
I think if I'm counting right, 5, yes?
Yes. Five in person plus one.
Online.
So we're in good shape.
Yay.
The next item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from the November 4th meeting. Those were emailed out to us. And I hope people took a little bit of time to review them. Any discussion on those minutes? Do I hear a motion to approve the minutes?
A motion to approve?
And a second?
I'll second.
Is that Commissioner Smith approving and Commissioner Rickman seconding?
And we've had a motion and a second to approve the meetings, the minutes. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say same sign. And that has been passed. In new business, some public hearing items, and we don't have anything listed at this time. In administrative items, the Citizens Board Annual Report.
Chair Oakes?
Yes.
May I have the floor for a moment?
Yes,
to
please.
report? That you should have received in your board packet a draft. We kind of, as you all probably remember from the last meeting, we're all new, so we went back through the history, and Spencer put together some ideas, but this is up to you. So I want to make that clear. We put some suggestions down based on some prior history and what the little bit of experience we've had so far. But this is open for discussion, but we wanted to at least get you started a little bit. If anyone has any additions, anything they want to take off, it is your report, and we will just help guide that.
Do you want me to read through it?
Do you want, or I could do that, either one. Chair,
Okay,
it's up,
'cause don't
I
know
leave it
that
to chair.
Since everybody doesn't have a copy in front of them, let's go ahead and read through it.
Okay. Would you like me to do that?
Sure.
I think I brought them, or, yes, I have them. So what we had for the annual report for 2022, the first they have as a list of accomplishments, and it says list 3 to 5 accomplishments your board or commission has achieved. The first one was created and distributed an accessibility advisory board survey. The second was created a community resources list for people with disabilities. The third was engaged city staff about gutters with no coverings. And fourth was reached out to citizens with accessibility concerns. Do you want me to do the whole part, or do you want to take it in sections, Commissioner or Chair?
I think that's fairly clear, so let's go ahead and proceed.
Okay, so then the goals that were list 3 to 5 goals, and we had goal number 1 for next year. Analyze the results of the Accessibility Advisory Board survey in order to identify the primary obstacles people with disabilities have in Salina. Goal number 2, increase social networking presence so that individuals with disabilities will know what resources they have available. And goal number 3, serve as accessibility subject matter experts for the city commission and city staff as needed. Then the next item is other items of interest. Anything that you would want the commission, the city commission, the governing body, the elected governing body to be aware of is keep in contact with citizens that have accessibility concerns was what we came up with. So those are the ones that we proposed and that we've kind of drafted. Again, this body has authority to edit, amend, add, delete, whatever you see fit. But
Okay, and so I think I'll open that up for discussion among the board and staff. Anybody have anything they would like to add in the area of accomplishments, goals, or other items of interest at this point? I have to say, I'm pretty proud of those accomplishments. I don't know that in the year before we had accomplished that much, so that's something.
COVID kind of slowed everyone down a
Yeah.
little bit too, I
Yeah,
think.
that is very true.
So,
Very true. And as the meeting goes on, furthering the agenda, we're going to discuss a little bit of some experience with some social networking and some experience with our survey. So I think those are still very good goals and very current to what we have done.
and they tie nicely with what we're trying to accomplish with our marketing plan
Good.
and what we're trying to do. So I'm pleased with that.
Good. And does anybody have anything else they would like to add to this? I think it looks pretty complete.
Okay.
I'd make a motion to approve the Citizens Board Annual Report.
A second.
We've had a motion and a second to approve the the Commissioner's Annual Report. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. And that has unanimously been passed.
Who seconded that motion?
Oh, I was just
Thank
going
you.
to say Commissioner Smith.
Okay. Next on the agenda, some preliminary discussion items. There is nothing listed at this time. And then, so we'll move to unfinished business, and that brings us to our survey. And so I think I'm going to turn that over to Spencer for a bit.
Yeah. So far, we actually closed the survey as of yesterday. We had 53 or 52 responses, I think. So yeah, we got plenty of responses. Is a good representation of the sample. Michelle, did you have some?
Yes, I got some data
Okay.
from like how well it did in the marketing aspects of what we did and what we accomplished. So I tried to gather a little bit of that data through our marketing, the city's marketing department. We don't have independent control, but they're really good at sharing information. So I went and gathered some information from them. The first thing we did was send out about 100 letters to different agencies, reintroducing ourselves, and included this handy survey. And I think all of you saw copies of that or received copies of that so that you would have an idea of what it is that what we posted for the survey, which has a QR code and just a cute little graphic trying to encourage people to do it. We also posted this around town besides including this in those 100 letters to different agencies, including Independent Connections, OCCK, Choices, and all the agencies that might be able to help push the message to those who need services or who have an interest at all. So United Way, just your standard community agency list is kind of who we targeted first. Then we also posted this around some community, like the Parks and Rec has a lot of bulletin boards around, the library has some bulletin boards, and places where we knew we could use a bulletin board access, the kind of old-fashioned way. And then what we started working on in January was social media with the help of the marketing department. So we posted 3 different times on Facebook. The first time was January 4th, and we had 3,700 views, 19 likes, 96 link clicks, and 1 share. We had then on January 24th, we decided to keep the survey open a little bit longer. We were going to try and close it so that we could get everything compiled and into a staff report to make it public record to get to you, but we weren't getting as much response, so we decided to keep it open through the end of the month. And we went back to the marketing department and said, can we post again and maybe a little more aggressively? Because even though we had some good numbers on the reactions and stuff, we weren't having good completion. So we wanted to see if we could get up. We were very excited to get to 52. When we hit over 50, we were pretty excited. So on January 24th, then we did another posting. We had on Facebook, we had over 2,000 views, 17 like reactions, 42 clicked on the link, and 10 shares. And they also did stories on that time, and we had 204, I think they're called views of the stories that go with that. And then we had, then on January 31st, our last big push before we closed it, we had over 1,000 views at 1.3, so 1,300 views, 10 clicked on the link, and 153 views of the story. And I can't remember how many unique openings because I can't read my notes. But some unique openings. Then along with that, on those, we use the same dates for Instagram and Twitter, so the dates are the same. On January 4th, they did an Instagram post and had 153, I think they're called, they're either impressions or views. I can't remember which. And then they didn't do Instagram on January 24th, but January 31st, they had 106 people view it and 1 reaction, and then they did a story with that one. The individual story had 57 individuals with it. On Twitter, we had 99 impressions on the 31st and 1 click. We had 133 impressions on the 24th and 2 clicks, 159 impressions on the 4th of January and 1 click. And then we don't know how many impressions come off of our website. We weren't able to track that data yet. And then there's also the bulletin board on channel 22, I believe it is. Like it posts there. We don't know how much response we were able to get from that. But we did have 302 views when it was posted as part of the city commission. When they do the city commission meetings, they post different things. And so they posted it from one city commission meeting. We got 302 views. So that kind of gives you what we tried really hard to get it out and get the message out and share with individuals to get, if anyone else has any suggestions, we hope to get better at our social media and reaching individuals. But we're at the first stages of it. I thought it was a good success. Of course, you always want more completions, but at least people were seeing it and having an opportunity to complete it. So that is where we are. Spencer we were working really hard, but just getting all that data, we just got it, and it really needs to be part of the record and not doing that. So we couldn't get it in the post to get it to you sooner. We will have in the staff report, there will be a staff report next time that has that information summarized, and he's been working on some pretty graphics, but we knew there was no way when we closed it January 31st we could timely, appropriately get this part of the record like we have a duty to do.
And so at that time, will we get a summary of the types of concerns that were brought up?
Yes,
Okay.
we will have more in that data, the questions and some percentages and, some charts. He's been working on some charts and stuff, so we hope to have that to you. I did just peripherally try and go through. I know last time there was some discussion about how many and what are the concerns. So we took a look at our call log. I looked at 3 things. I looked at our call log, which we now have an interaction log in our office that we track, like what comes in, not just on disability, but everything that comes in, and we try and track even the lost individuals that come in. So we call it an interaction log. We have cases filed and what cases are actually going through and pursuing to complaints, and then we looked at the comments on this. So I kind of tried to compile all of that data to give you information on what are the concerns. I would say, as far as cases filed, the number one thing right now that has to do with ADA and that compliance would be emotional support animals that was the primary one. We have other types of complaints. It's not just about disability and ADA, which interacts with a bunch of different laws that we do in discrimination, but the number one that had to do right now, and this is probably nationwide from what I understand from my HUD conferences and the different trainings I've been participating in, it's emotional support animals. So that is the biggest one as far as cases filed. As far as calls to the office and interaction that way and just what people call about, the number one thing is elevators that break down in buildings. I think when an elevator breaks down in an apartment building in this town, we get a lot of calls.
Yes.
So trying to work with the landlords and what they're doing. And unfortunately, the sad thing is elevator repair people are not plentiful in Salina. So sometimes it does take them a little bit to get that repaired. And, as long as they're, the landlords that we've been dealing with so far on that have been, good at communicating with us and trying to communicate so we can let people know. But it is very frustrating, and I'm sure it's very scary for individuals when you live on a higher floor and you need that elevator. So, but I would say that's probably our biggest call when that happens. In addition to a lot of questions on emotional support animals too, before they even file. We have a lot of landlords and tenants calling about that. And then the other thing I would say, handicap spaces and whether someone has to have and whether they have enough parking, the handicap parking, and homes when elderly people or other individuals, like during the windstorm, had a lot of home damage and like how they can get help repairing things and that kind of stuff. So trying to have those resources available in that resource directory, I think is helpful, and being able to kind of guide them. Unfortunately, that's not something we can personally do in our office and do that, but at least we can give them some resources with the resource guide of, what kind of community organizations might be able to help them. But those were the common calls, I would say. I would think and a lot of those really were the same in the comments that we got back. But the number one thing I think was sidewalks on the form. And we had some sidewalk discussion last time. Parking again and automatic doors, not elevators as much, but the automatic doors in different places. Those were, just to kind of summarize what the written portion of the survey, when people actually, I shouldn't say written because some of it was typed, but the more comments, not just the checking the boxes that we will do in some stat forms, but those were the kind of more feedback that we received. So those are kind of the areas, I think we can, once we get that survey back, kind of group and maybe focus in on some of that.
Thank you. We've been asking for that type of information, and I think that's very, very helpful.
Okay.
Thank you.
Does anyone have any questions on that? I know it went kind of fast, but that's what we tried to look at to compile the data.
Have you been able to get with the city about some of those cutouts and those?
Yes, I was at the, and I tried to get with Dr. Finger a little bit before. We just haven't been able to connect. The holidays slowed me down, and then before I knew it, here we were, February. But yes, I was able to visit with engineering a little bit, and my understanding is that they set aside funds to do so many a year. They started by looking at what were the most traveled, or what they call primary arteries, I think. I'm not sure I'm using it. I'm not an engineer, and I'm not really good at this terminology yet, but the primary arteries, so the streets most traveled, and then they kind of go out from there. And they would entertain input on like the less traveled. If they know someone is using it that needs it, that we could bump it up on the list for them. And I think they would relish some input. So if there was a time that Dr. Finger and I wanted to sit down with the engineer and say, here's some areas, and we know that this person is using this area, because they just do so many a year. And so they prioritize it, first of all, by the amount of traversing that road gets, and then they kind of go out from there. And people speaking out about having a need will drive that. So if we want to give some input, I think it would be very worthy, and having that conversation with the engineering department.
Okay.
I hope that answers your question, and hopefully we'll get a chance to connect a little bit and make that happen.
Sounds great.
Good. Thank you. Thank you. Spencer, can I bring up our discussion? Okay. I was contacted by Spencer back in December or January, and yes, in January, a person who had filled out the survey had a request for us to contact her. So Spencer and I sat down and we contacted her. And we had a wonderful discussion. This is a person who has quite a bit of experience in dealing with disabilities, both from the side of having a child who is now a young adult with a disability and having her elderly mother have develop a disability. And we had a really, really good conversation. And basically just, I think the bottom line was she just asked, get information out. She was interested in our resources list. And she just, it was just a very, very good conversation. Spencer, do you have anything to add on that, or?
Not particularly. I guess it's down on the agenda, but just the social media and how we
Right.
can increase awareness. But if we're going to discuss that later, then we can
Okay.
talk later.
Actually, I think that's where we are, to discuss how social media can be used to increase awareness. And that kind of fit with this call. It was a very good conversation. So we can kind of discuss that?
Yeah. Was there like a transition group or the social media group?
At one point in time, there had been a transition council by the Central Kansas Co-op for young adults as they transition from school services to adult services for individuals with disabilities. And I did kind of hit up the co-op to find out what was going on. They do have something like that goes on in the spring semester. It's not quite as formal as a transition council, but they do have some services, and certainly lots and lots of resources offered through that.
Is that the education, like USD 305
Yes.
co-op? Is that right?
Yeah.
They usually have like a transition fair.
Yes. Usually in February.
So, yeah,
Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah.
I think COVID has kind of messed it up a little bit in the last few years. but
Probably.
I think historically it's
In
been
February?
yeah, February, March-ish area.
And they invite, well, maybe we should get invited to that.
Yeah.
They invite many people of different resources, Independent Connection, OCCK
OCCK.
Choices,
Vocational rehabilitation, pre-eds,
yeah.
If you've
lots
been
of other services.
involved, is that something that we should try to get invited to as an office and a resource to, or community, or board
I mean,
members?
yeah, if even just to provide resources, just to be like what I see a lot is that every agency tries to provide resources. And so they're all a little different. And so if we just had one, like, overarching that was just like, you know
Well,
what I
I'm gonna-
mean? Does that make sense?
Yes, I'm going to get on my soapbox and show my age a little bit when I say that I hate privatization with SRS. When it was SRS and there was one agency that you could go to, now everything's so fragmented, it's really hard.
Yeah.
There isn't one overarching and trying to keep up on those lists, so that's my soapbox.
Yeah.
Well, and I think to, just like we tried to with the survey, to let citizens know that there is an office in the city that has the availability of communicating on these issues.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you know, Commissioner Rickman, who to contact about that? Is it
About the
in our
transition
resource
fair?
book?
I don't know.
I don't remember. It's not something I had heard of before.
Jeff Hayes is the head of the Central Kansas Cooperative
Yes.
Okay.
in Education, and I was trying to remember who the coordinator is in charge of that, and I am not remembering.
Okay, well, we'll start with Mr. Hayes.
Jeff
That's
would be a
probably-
real good resource.
I know they used to have like a specific transition coordinator.
And
like that was that person's position, but I don't know.
I think,
I either don't know who that person is or I don't know if they have one like at this moment.
Okay.
I'm not sure.
It's always changing, too.
Yeah.
That's the other
Yeah.
problem with
And
these
sometimes-
resources.
Oh, I do this and that.
Yeah.
You know, like sometimes it's like that.
Yeah. It is like a never-ending game to try and keep up a book on these types of things and keep it up to date, so.
And a lot of like nonprofit agencies like OCCK, Independent Connection, a lot of those places don't have the staff time to keep up with that stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, like, they're important, and, you know, we understand that they're important, but it just,
It's hard.
yeah, the staff time just, our job, I mean, obviously I don't work in Independent Connection anymore, but the job's there is to work with the people, you know,
Right.
work with the people that you've got, and developing a list of resources, that sounds great in theory. Who's going to do it?
Yeah,
Who's got the time for that?
yeah. Well, and everyone always has or comes up with something new, and so it's just a constant updating. It's kind of like laundry. It just keeps growing.
And maybe a good resource to, I mean, for help is the new Salina Grace Community Resource Center. I know that was one of the things that they were really going to try
Okay.
to do. I mean, not specifically for people with disabilities or, you know, accessibility related, but one of the things they were really going to focus on was trying to get those resources gathered together. So maybe it's not going to take all that much effort to weed out the ones that, you know, don't fit that accessibility side of things.
Okay. Well, I learned something, so.
Were there any other social media groups or anything like that that we could maybe contact or something?
I just had a question. In terms of social media, like the AAB, what does the city allow in terms of having a page that the AAB has or a way of reaching out that way? Could the
We,
AAB have their own Twitter or their own Instagram or?
at this time, it's a coordinated effort through the marketing. So we have a page on the city's website, and then when we want to publish things, we go to the marketing department now that does the filming, that's doing the filming here today and doing some of that stuff. And they're really great at working with us, but we don't have our own independent one. And at this time, that's not in the foreseeable future, at least not through this year on our marketing plan. Our job, or what I've been trying to do just overall for all of our marketing, is figure out, starting with the tracking part and then trying to narrow it down to get more specific. Like, how do we reach the people that really, of those 2,000 views, how do we really focus on the ones that really want our message, or, you know, trying to get that a more specific target market, how to do that. And I'm just in the early discussions of that. But right now, to answer your question, we don't have our own independent. And for a lot of reasons, there's a lot of different, yeah, and so. So there's just a lot that goes with that, a lot of responsibility too. So we are doing it through them, but we're trying to get better at really trying to reach the people and not just do a blast to everyone, but try to focus in. And there are ways to do that. I'm still kind of learning, and we're in the process of talking to them about it. And that is one of my big goals, is to really, you know, figure out how we reach the people that most connect with our services. Like, but one, besides people that have a need for accommodations or have disabilities, it's also renters, because a lot of what we do is housing. So the housing, you know, how do we get to renters, you know, because that's where most of the landlord issues come in, are the renters more than people that own their own homes. So how do we focus in on those individuals? And, you know, Google knows everything, I swear. So you just have to figure out how to reach those individuals. And so that is one of my big goals for this year, is to see if we can't target in better.
One of the things that I've seen on Facebook recently is when other advisory boards have met, there's been an announcement that a city advisory board is meeting, and they can click on it at the appropriate time and observe it. I don't know if that's something we would want to do, or are we doing?
We are doing. So you should be able, that's what this marketing department and what they're filming on, and they're doing a fantastic job. If you haven't watched any of the city commission meetings or anything now, and go to the city's website, YouTube channel, and I'm not very good. They're probably telling me, Michelle, you need to know what to say. But it's the YouTube channel. It's, Marissa, help me out. What's it called? We have our own channel, and it has all the meetings, and that's what I was saying on the city, during the city commissioners meeting, when they posted our survey, they're trying to post things. They have, I think it's channel 22, that also has, like, when meetings are coming up, like, this meeting was advertised, and then you can go watch that meeting on the YouTube channel now. So that, just, and then getting those, making more people aware of it, so
Right.
they know it's out there. It's just trying to connect with the people that really want the information. So,
And it's hard. I would say the one thing is, the, like, saying when somebody's upset about something, they're going to tell 10 people. And then when they like something, you're lucky if they tell one person.
that is very true.
So, I mean, the hard thing is getting the survey in people's hands when they're in the moment of that struggle. you know?
Right.
Because otherwise, for the most part, you struggle with something, you figure out a way to cope with it, and then it just, you just forget about it, or, you just learn. Just learn to deal with it. And so you're like, man, whatever, that's just how it is. And so I think that's what's hard is
The
if
timing.
we only do the survey for 1 month, how many people are really going to be encountered with that accessibility struggle enough to say, I know exactly what I'm going to say on here.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, I just think that, not that it needs to be like open forever, but,
But I had thought when we were talking about, at our next meeting, we'll get more statistics or more graphics about the results of the survey. It might be a good time to say, okay, when are we going to do this again?
Okay.
Because hopefully we've gotten, obviously we have gotten some response. They were a little slow in coming in, but they did come in.
Yeah.
And maybe now those people will be aware of it and might share with some other people to be aware of it next time too. So I think that's something worth discussing as we go through the data.
I don't disagree. I think the other thing that the little bit I know, definitely won't call myself an expert, but what drives people to websites and what drives people to respond and gets more traffic, if you will, to all of your social media is content. And so one of the things that in our overall marketing plan and working with the marketing department is creating content is going to be one of my big things, big pushes, not content just on a survey, but content on short videos, know your rights kind of videos. One of the things they've asked me to participate in is a roundtable. They're going to videotape on a topic. Next Friday will be our first one, and they hope to do a few this year that are about relevant issues. And I can't remember, they're going to give me the questions. I'm just the moderator. But we're going to do them on topics like disabilities and different stuff, but they've been working in the marketing on that side of it. And then if we push it on our page, that'll create some content. We've talked about writing some articles that we can put up on our page because that's what drives people more. And then once you get them to your page, then they can see a survey. But creating, that time to create some content is what's always hard. But I think having individuals here that are helping film to create content, that's going to be a big help to get people to know more about it. And having the survey maybe more than just once a year or whatever. I don't know what you've done in the past, if it's been once a year was the intent or what. If this was the first survey you've done, I didn't get all that information when I looked through. I know it got delayed.
I believe this was the first,
Okay.
or at least to say the first in recent history.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So,
Will the board entertain a question and a comment at this time regarding media?
it's,
Yes.
My name is Michael Kuhn, and I've had experience with KSAL Radio when I was manager of Prairieland Market. When we joined the Chamber of Commerce, we got some free radio commercials. And at that time, James Westling, who was working with me, informed me about the live radio program in the mornings. I can't remember the name of the program now, but Clark Sanders was a part of it. And you basically had an hour to talk about your organization. They would ask questions. People would call in and ask questions. And when I pitched this to our board at Prairieland about the live radio, I found a lot of statistics that support benefits of radio. People listen. A lot of people listen to radio. And KSAL has 6 channels, not just the 2 here in Salina, but there's others. And I was wondering if the board would consider perhaps using this as a venue for outreach.
And I think that's something to consider.
And I've participated in some of those live talk shows before. There's two main morning programs in the Salina footprint, Salina area, and it is a great resource and a great tool. You just have to get on their schedule, and usually they are looking for something. So that was something we were talking about, maybe trying to fit in schedule time-wise for fair housing, and it's certainly something we could talk to them about, maybe when we do the proclamation that we typically do for Disability Awareness Month, that would be a good time to try and get on the radio. So
That sounds good.
I think it's a
Thank
great
you.
idea and a great suggestion, so.
That is a good idea.
It's always the time thing and trying to get and timing it right and when they want it. But usually they are always looking for, they have to create content every morning.
Every
So,
single day.
so they're always looking for content.
Okay. Any other discussion of social media inputs or experiences? I think we'll await the results of our survey and
Okay.
see where we go from there then, I think.
Well, thank you.
Okay.
I did have one thing. Are we going to close the survey? Is it going to be officially closed? I know someone had mentioned, or Commissioner Rickman mentioned that we might have more responses if we kept it open. As for right now, should we close it and consider reopening it in the future, or how do you guys want to go from there?
Have you been getting responses up until you closed it yesterday?
It's slower. We posted it on social media for one last time last week, and I mean, they were trickling in. We probably got 3 or 4 more responses. So I know the first time we posted it, it was probably 20 responses. So it's definitely slowed down a little bit.
And I think it had been noted that it was going to end January 31st
Correct.
on some of the posters and things. I think,
My question is, do we feel, it's just me, and this is just me talking. Do we feel, because this is how I feel that more of our younger individuals with disabilities are more hands-on. Does that make sense? Maybe if we knew of a fair or something going on and we had a booth or something, so not say close it now, but like if there's a fair or something going on,
Like if we go to this,
if we go to the source.
transition fair or whatever.
Yeah, so maybe when the transition fair is going on, maybe we do something like that. So say close it now. And I say younger because like, I don't know, maybe I don't know, because I feel like I'm babbling. Yeah, social media is good, and we think of the younger ones, but some of our younger ones are more on the go, and so if we touch them, they see us instead of behind the scenes, we would reach more.
so.
I don't know.
So what I'm thinking, if I'm hearing you correctly, is that the questions themselves are solid questions that don't have a time limit on them.
Right.
So we could reuse this and retool this survey at different times and
Yeah.
repost it because they're pretty, they didn't have a time limit really on the questions. We just had a time limit so that we could analyze the material to bring back to you. But we could do it, we could use it again, or even if it was something that we figured that we could have posted on the website, just always, like not push it out, but if someone fills it in, we may not get it all the time, and it may not be compiled into the data, but it would at least make us aware so that when someone had an issue that happened at the time, they have a place to fill out.
Yeah.
I don't want to call it a complaint form because.
But it really, that's
gives
what
them
it
almost
is.
an
Yeah.
You know,
opportunity
when
to
it's
be
fresh
heard.
on your mind, you're like,
An
when you're
opportunity.
mad, you're gonna. I know I'm gonna commit myself when I'm angry about something. But if I'm just like slightly inconvenienced, I'm be like, whatever. I'll do
Yeah.
that later.
Yeah.
But I feel the questions are, they're good questions. They're questions that we can use all the time. They're not a time limit question.
We call them evergreen, right? They
Yeah,
stay fresh. I mean, you can reuse them and they don't die away.
Is there a value, though, to having a closing out date to analyze data up to a certain point? Or do we just leave it open and say, we're just analyzing data up to a certain point?
I think the second is, I think that's where I lean. It's not, my final decision, but that's kind of where I lean, that we could, we analyze this data that we've done and we've accumulated for now, but we could maybe look at posting it on the website to have an opportunity for people who do have issues, a way for them to be heard
Okay.
and
How-
doing that.
How do you all know if someone has responded to the survey on the website? Does something flag up to you to know that, or?
I think that comes in a couple different ways. This QR code, we know something, but I think it comes in, Spencer, you get the,
Yeah, I get it through Google Forms. It doesn't tell me.
Once you close it, it's closed, but you won't get any more red flags, correct?
Right. I can reopen it if we need to, but right now it is closed. So,
so
if someone went to take the survey, they wouldn't be able to at this moment.
And we could probably, because it's a Google Forms, we could probably just change and date it, so we know it's anything after we closed it, but we just had it posted on the website or had it
So
available.
like if we go to
The fair.
the fair, we can reopen it.
Or we could also print it out and have it if we're at an actual place and print. We could, I don't know that we can actually, if there's a print function, but we could create the same questions and create, we have time, we could make that happen to create something and make a paper form of it and take to something like a fair. I
And
don't know.
on the title page right now, it had been that it closed January 31st. We could just remove that part.
I just feel, after almost 8 years of working with people with disabilities, 52 is a great number for a very first survey and getting it out. But 52 is not even the tip of the iceberg of people with disabilities in our community.
I was looking at the census data online and trying to come up with some numbers on that because I kind of like to see like how are we tracking with that. And what I can gather is from the census data, there's like 46,899 residents in Salina, and it says 11.5% are disabled and under 65. And then what you don't know is it says 16.9% are over 65. How many of those qualify for disabled or not? But they categorized it out. So 11.5% would be 5,393.
And I would say that doesn't, that doesn't count people who like have surgery and have a temporary disability,
Correct.
that would come into accessibility concerns,
Right.
like, oh, I go to the store all the time and I never noticed that I couldn't get up on the curb,
Right.
until I had this
Need.
scooter that I had to use or, whatever the case is.
So, that's the best I could come up with right now as far as data. I was trying to find, I did some searching to try and find some data, and that was the most current that I could find, and I don't know.
That would be my only concern with closing it and leaving it closed right now.
Yeah.
Because I think 52, while it's great for a very first survey and we could analyze what we've got, I think it should still be open and we need to figure out where else we can push it out to.
Right.
Like the resource center, or the mission, or, just those kind of places that maybe don't get thought of as much.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I know the mission and some of those places were on the mailing list
Yeah.
initially, so we sent them a letter and this form and asked them to hang it up and put, share with all their clients and everyone. So I know they were, but this transition fair, I think, would be a good first one to go and see too, especially if it's in February or March.
So do we need to have a motion to change the way the survey is open, or just through our discussion do that?
I don't know that it needs to be a board action.
Okay.
I don't think it has to be a board action because it's something you're working with staff and we can be directed, I think, to continue doing it that way. I don't think there was a board action that mandated the survey as far as, I guess I wasn't here, but I don't think there was a board action that said you had to do it this way.
No.
So I don't think you need board action to modify this.
Okay.
I would
Just-
say, I mean, I think that analyze the 52 responses that you got, that we have, but I would keep it open.
Okay.
You know, for another month, 6 weeks, just so, you know, because I mean, I was personally sharing on my Facebook, and I have a lot of, I mean, I don't have a lot of friends, but I have a lot of friends, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And so, you know, and I know that they were like, oh, I saw your post, I did the survey, you know. So I don't know how many people actually did, but, you know, but I also think of like, we could post it at the senior center, but how many people are going to know how to scan a QR code?
Yeah.
Like, that sounds terrible, but I mean, really, like, they're not going to, you know, I mean, I would be willing to one afternoon go to the senior center and take my computer and fill out the survey with 20 folks, you know, just help them fill out the survey. And I just don't know if there are community agencies that have the time to sit with people and do that. You know what I mean? So that's where I kind of see the issue. That makes sense. But I think we should leave it open because, I mean, I will go to lunch with some senior citizens and fill out some surveys.
Okay.
So we, at this point, we'll leave it open, but I don't believe that would require board action or a vote
Okay.
to have to do that, so.
Okay.
If I'm wrong, I suppose I'll learn later, right? I'll take the heat for that one, but I don't think we need board action.
Okay. Any other business to be discussed? We had some public forum. Any new business anybody else have?
I had a couple of announcements
Okay.
I did want to share whenever it's time, Madam Chair.
Well, the next thing is adjournment, so let's go ahead and do your announcements.
Okay. So I wanted to share the meetings for the rest of the year so that you guys all have those dates, just to make sure, because I know it can get away from us. And so we have May 5th, 2022 will be the next date. Then August 4th.
All at 3 o'clock.
Yes. And then November 3rd, 2022 would be the last one for the year. And then next February, it's February 2nd, 2023. Those are all our normal, regular time meetings, no special meetings, but just the regular meetings,
Okay.
just for your,
What was the one after August 4th?
November 3rd, 2022.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Then the other thing, since before we meet next time, we are having our fair housing seminar, and I just wanted to share with you, and this is what our brochure will look like for it. Again, it has a nice QR code for people to sign up. It will be posted. We'll try and share it, but it's April 22nd. And I did want to take time to share a little bit because I'm excited about one thing that overlaps with this board. I think that we're having a session during the agenda. We just got the agenda settled, and we're going to have a session, a panel discussion on tools to help with reasonable accommodations. And I was excited to share that with this board. I think we've got good representation. Nancy Lamer from Independent Connections has agreed to serve on that panel. Deb Bingston from Accessible Home Health Inc., and Trell Grentner from OCCK. So we hope to have a good discussion there, and I thought that overlaps. I mean, what you do here with this board and the ADA and all of that overlaps tremendously with the HRC and fair housing and all of that. They all interconnect. So I just wanted to let you know, there's some other things. If you're interested, I'm happy to share that agenda with you, but that's the one I wanted to just make this board aware of if you're wanting to participate or hear any of that information.
What time is that discussion scheduled for?
12:40 to 2 o'clock, because we have the panel. I'll moderate that panel, and then we'll have 3 panelists. But that particular portion's 12:40 to 2 o'clock.
And where is this held?
This seminar, they try and do at TPEC, and that's where we're doing it this year, Tony's Performing
Tony's Pizza Event Center.
Center. Thank you.
Is it upstairs?
Yes, that's where we're planning to have it.
Okay.
God willing, everything goes well
Right.
and nothing changes and all of that, I say, because I know there's been some stuff. But I did want to share that with you as far as an announcement. And then the last announcement I have is that we did create a virtual binder that Spencer is going to send out a link to each of you. I know this group isn't, we use it for the HRC. It's a link called Sync, SYNC, and it's a free service, but I think you have to register as your own. And when he sends you the email, then you'll be able to see it's a secured site, kind of, I don't know, there's other services, but Sync is who they've set up and used with HRC. But your virtual binder, so it will have your bylaws in there, it will have your this training we do. We'll start with these minutes forward, these board packets. You can always get past board packets on the city's website, but it'll have the Cora Coma, the AG's opinion, the bylaws for how we started, and all of those things that they send to you when you first sign up to be a board member. The city's clerk's office mails out. That way you have it in a place. And the kind of some of the current projects we're working on and stuff will be in that virtual binder. So you will get an email. We've got that started for you, and that way we don't have to keep the books current. We'll have books here. If you have any questions, we'll always try and have some stuff here, but this way you can access it at any time. You don't have to wait till the meeting to see your book, too. So that's what we've created, and you should get an email and look for that.
And will we get an email of when it is updated with the next meeting's information?
It'll probably be the same time we update for what you get now.
Okay.
You can assume that we'll put it in the
That's when
binder
it will
too
be
going
then.
forward.
Okay,
I hope that helps.
okay.
Anyway, those are all my announcements, Chair. Thank you for your time.
Okay. Anyone else have any other business to bring forward? Then I will open it up for a movement to adjourn.
I'll motion to adjourn.
Commissioner Rickman,
And a second?
Second.
Commissioner Smith.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Meeting adjourned.
Yay.